Hey guys, Kyle here with Hornbaker Acres. Today's video is going to be kind of a basic beekeeping type video. We've had some requests to kind of go over some basic information about beekeeping, about bees in general. So today's video is specifically on bee roles, the roles that they have within the hive. So let's jump right into it. So first, what you're going to see here is a picture of a queen bee. She's going to be easily identified by that extra long abdomen. Obviously, as you guys probably know, her purpose is she's the mother of the hive. She lays all these eggs. And I'm going to go through some of the things specific about queens. In this picture here, you're going to see what's called a queen cell. It looks very different than any other object in the hive. It looks kind of like a peanut, to be honest. But this is a cell. This is where the queen is created, basically. This cell is going to be capped in about 8 days from the time that her egg is laid. And then she will emerge from that cell 16 days after the egg is laid in this queen cell. From there, it takes her about 5-ish days for her to mature, for her exoskeleton to harden enough. And then she'll go on her mating flight from there. These time frames can vary greatly depending on weather and other factors, but it's about 5 days for her to mature, and then 1 to 3 days for her to go on her mating flights. Then from there, it takes her 1 to 2 days to store the sperm from these mating flights, and then you'll start seeing her lay eggs from there. From that point forward, she'll live about 4 to 5 years of laying eggs, and again, this is all just from a single, basically, day of mating flight. That she'll be able to lay these eggs for 4 to 5 years, laying up to 2,000 to 3,000 eggs per day. And again, her role is just the mother of the hive. She's the mother of all the bees within the colony. Next up, we're going to talk about the drone bees. They're the males of the colony. And in this picture you see here, you see a drone next to some workers, and they're easily identified by the very large eyes and the flat abdomen. So the large eyes, the purpose for that is when they go out on their mating flights, it's easier for them to spot these virgin queens flying around. That's why they have such large eyes. The flat abdomen, that's because they don't have a stinger. A stinger is actually a modified sexual organ of the female, and they don't have a stinger. They don't really have any purpose within the colony. Their entire purpose is to go out and go on these mating flights, and I'll go more into that in just a second. These drones are created by unfertilized eggs, and the queen can choose, depending on the cell size, and because drone cells are larger than worker cells, she will decide to lay an unfertilized egg in a drone cell, and that's what creates a drone. So kind of a neat fact with that is basically a drone has no father but has a grandfather, and what I mean by that is that a drone comes directly from an unfertilized egg, which means that no sperm was introduced to that egg. So basically they have no father, but their mother, the queen, comes from a fertilized egg, which means that sperm was introduced to that egg, so they do have a grandfather, or several grandfathers technically. In this picture here, you're going to see some drone brood. It's in the upper left corner of this frame. It's identified by the cap is much larger than the rest. Basically, it bumps out more. Drone brood is capped in about 10 days, and then they hatch out after about 24 days. From there they mature, and then they eventually leave the hive and search for virgin queens to mate with, and they'll continue to do that until they find one. When they do find a virgin queen, unfortunately when they mate they die because their sexual reproductive organs gets ripped from their bodies. And a kind of a neat fact is when the drones mate and they mate successfully, you can actually hear a popping sound from the ground. You can actually hear this popping sound, and that's actually basically the sperm exploding from their bodies into the queen. From there, if they don't successfully mate, they'll remain in the hive, and they'll continue to try and mate as long as the weather permits until winter time. And during the winter time, the worker bees force out all, or at least a vast majority of the drones, because they have no purpose within the hive, and they just eat up honey and other resources in the hive. The worker bees force a vast majority of the drones out of the hive, and since they don't have stingers themselves, they have no way to protect themselves from these worker bees forcing them out. And when they get forced out, typically, again, it's right before winter, So it's starting to get colder, and that means that these drones end up just freezing or starving, and they die that way. Next, I'm going to talk about worker bees. This picture here is a worker bee. It's what everybody sees. It's just a normal looking honeybee. All the worker bees are female. They come from fertilized eggs as well. This picture is going to show, it's the same picture of the drone brood, but in the lower right hand corner you're going to see the worker brood, and it's just the way it's capped is different. It's a smaller cell, and it's not capped as high. It's not raised as much as the drone brood. These worker brood cells are capped in about 9 days, and then the worker brood themselves emerge or hatch out after 21 days. Once they do hatch out, their very first role in the colony typically is cleaners. Basically, they take care of cleaning the cells for the queen to lay eggs in, and just overall colony maintenance as far as cleaning goes. Then as they get older, they become nurse bees. So they feed the various brood. During this time, they can also be attendant bees for the queen, basically taking care of the queen at the same time. As they get older, they become comb builders. They start producing wax. So they'll build all that honeycomb and the brood comb that you see in a colony, and that's what they start doing. And then as they get even older, they start guarding the colony. They'll hang out at the entrance of the colony and keep other insects and foreign bees out of the colony. Then as they get even older, they become foragers. They become the bees that you see out in the wild that are collecting nectar and pollen from flowers and other plants. And they'll continue that job until they just get too old or something happens to them and they end up dying. So I know this is a really quick video and just a real quick rundown, but I just kind of wanted to start this series of basic beekeeping and basic bee facts. We've had some requests for it, and I thought this would be a good way to start. Just kind of let everybody know what the different roles are in the colony and kind of how to identify the queen from the drones from the workers. So if you have any questions, please feel free to comment below. If you have a suggestion for a future video, also comment below. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page, Hornbaker Acres LLC on Facebook. Also like, share, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe so you can see one of the many future videos that we have planned out. So again, we always appreciate the support. Thank you so much, and happy beekeeping.
Mm-hmm.